Dental Fuel, the podcast that focuses on what no one else is talking about: mistakes. The dental world is full of before and afters, and no one is talking about the middle. Dental Fuel brings you the unspoken in-between. Dr. Naved Fatmi is back, sharing a financial mistake dentists can make with CE and technology. What's the reason why? Let's tune in. Speaking on finances, I think that making a financial decision to take a certain CE course can be a huge investment. But what other financial mistakes have you made in your career that have really impacted you, and how did you overcome them?
I think it relates directly to it. When you feel you're going to do everything and be that super GP, you're spending a ton of money, right? You're buying the latest implant systems and the motors and the all the rotary instruments and stuff for endo and the Botox and the Juve, and those are very expensive products and tools. Getting all the latest technology, which is a great thing. But what is the reason you're doing it for? Is it really for the patient, or are you doing it to self-fulfill? Hey, I do this, 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 and this. Just to say, hey, you probably place one implant the entire month, but is that the right move at that stage of your career? Right? So the quality of care decreases and your spending increases. Right? And we know now, you start looking at profit and loss statements end of the month and before, you're like, wow, I spent so much money on trying to be this person I'm not.
Right.
At that stage of your career, because you're going to get there with time, I think. And I'm a big believer on do everything. Try everything at least, right?
Sure.
Learn it.
Yeah.
I know how to do root canals. I know how to place implants. I know how to do the injectables. All on X cases. We have a CT in our offices. We have all digital. So I'm not saying to limit yourself, because I'm a promoter, and a huge promoter on education and learning new stuff as a general dentist. But practicing, it comes back down to practicing to the standard of care and the highest level standard of care. You gotta just narrow back to that, because you can't be great at everything, and you're gonna spend a ton of money.
Yeah. I know that we wish we all could be great at everything and that super GP that we mentioned, but I just don't think that it's realistic in most cases. I mean, maybe after X amount of years, I don't know if you can even put a certain amount of years behind that, but you got to put your time in for sure, and you got to put the learning in as well. But I agree. I think that, the standard of care needs to be high. And I think that you need to, as a practicing dentist, you need to be ethical, and you make sure that you treat your patients the way that you wish your family to be treated. And if you're going to place something on somebody that maybe it's questionable and you wouldn't do it on your family, that's maybe a good time to take a step back and take a second look at what you're doing.
Yeah, you got to be ready for, being on the board for 5 years. We see plenty of cases.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sat on probable cause. I think 3 out of the 5 years I was on the probable cause panel. And, the question will arise, how far is the next oral surgeon from, if you chase that wisdom to, close to the nerve? If there's somebody in Florida, we don't have excuses. We have specialists all around. So if you can't justify that answer and say, yeah, there's somebody 2, 5, 10 miles from me, and I could have referred it out, or I took steps A, B, and C to be safe, then there's a problem. I don't need to get into that. I think that the audience knows, the providers in the group, hygienists and doctors, but then there's a problem.
I want to talk a little bit about your role on the board, but before we get into that, I'm curious for you if you have any advice for dentists who are seeking out to take CE courses, and what CE courses were kind of pivotal for you, and what you encourage others to maybe invest in.
Okay. So in the beginning part of my career, I took courses on the clinical aspects of dentistry, what we spoke about: dental implants, root canal therapy, injectables, crown and bridge, aesthetics. And as I got comfortable being able to do the clinical work, that challenge is still on a personality level. You have to understand the personality. And in my head, it was, what is next, right? I wanted the next thing in life. So to be transparent, the last 5 to 6 years, I've actually focused more on the entrepreneur part of dentistry, on able to run multiple practice, on controlling overhead, on maximizing the usage of staff on other doctors' growth, on the equity models. So I could say, let's say, I've been practicing 12, 13 years. The first half was more on clinical to make sure that I'm in the field and I know what I'm talking about and I can speak to the patient and speak the correct language. And then now the second part of my career so far, it's more on the entrepreneurship of growth. And like the first example I used with you, it's not the number of practices for me. It's the number of chairs, the number of profitability margins. It's my lifestyle. I want to be comfortable. Just because I have 25 practices and I'm miserable, it's not worth it.
Right.
So
For
you have to know
you,
yourself.
where did you get that financial education? Because we're not getting that in the schools.
Right. One of the groups I joined was Dental Entrepreneur Organization, DEO. Then a couple of people in town that had one or two practices at the time. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't think it was as common to own multiple practices. I think even when I graduated, if you had two or three, you were like the weirdo.
Yeah.
Or they called you the corporate guy, right? Oh, he's a corporate guy.
Sure.
And that's not what it is. And our practices are not, our subgroup, our umbrella group is health and wellness dentistry, but underneath the three practices are Regency, which is a Boca office, Town Square. So we're not the same name throughout.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mom and pop feel. They don't even know if it's a group session, type of entity. So just start talking to people because you're going to see like-minded people, groups, and go to one of the groups I started going to, which is very generic, is FDA, with the Federal Dental Association.
Mm-hmm.
Within that, in each state, you guys have your own association, but you're going to see a lot more younger, even guys younger than me that have 6, 7, 10 practices. So it's a year round.
Yeah, the face of dentistry is definitely changing. Obviously we have your traditional mom and pop shop still of practicing, single office home, I guess that you can call it. And then we have those who choose to kind of expand and grow, that they're not in a DSO model, but they're kind of doing their own thing and likely very profitable and likely able to see a larger scope of patients in their community, which is pretty exciting.
So that's exactly it. I would recommend a younger dentist to first know what they want, because I have plenty of friends and colleagues and they have one or two practices and they're the happiest there because they can really, just key in into perfecting their profit margin. And what does one practice mean? Right? So if we're talking to the audience, I have friends in California area. One practice can be 20 chairs, right? That's one practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and then, and to somebody else, one practice in Manhattan, New York can be 2 chairs.
Yeah.
3 chairs, right? So what are we really talking about? We have to be speaking the same language. So you have to understand your own personality and say, I want to be that guy that's going to be on the phone till 9, 10 o'clock at night dealing with staff. Or no, I don't. I want to be done with it. I'm done at 5, 6 o'clock. I don't want to come in on Fridays, or I don't want the weekend thing going on. I don't want 60, 80 people reporting to me or regional. So you have to first understand what is your personal limitations and how much you can play before, just because it's not shiny. It's not all shiny.
Right? That's right. Yeah. It's not always rainbows and butterflies, right?
Right.
Lots of blood, sweat, and tears for sure.
So just understand your personality before you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Dental Fuel. Join us next week as we talk about scaling practices and team mistakes. You can follow Dr. Fatmi on Instagram at Dr. Naved Fatmi. You can follow us on Instagram at Dental Fuel and at Ignite DDS. Don't forget, you can learn more about Ignite Dental Masterminds at ignitedds.com/masterminds.